cars got points.
Yeah. That is the best racing you see.
And as promised, we are on the throttle right now, and I've been looking forward to this one all weekend long because I kind of followed this whole process with these guys all weekend long. If you were part of the On the Throttle Facebook page or Dwayne's Facebook page or about a half a dozen other people that were posting stuff up to that old interweb. And we talked last week, this weekend was the 24-hour grocery getter race over at Bearfield. I've got Dwayne Hancock and I have Dane Miller with me right now. We're on the throttle, all brought to you by your local Napa dealer here in Bryan, by Suburban Auto, by A.J. Dorr, Bryan Ford Lincoln, Jason Dietz Customs Collisions Trailer and Trailer Repair, Fast Forward Motorsports, and Keck Lawn Service. And guys, first of all, congratulations. I'm going to give you applause. You survived all 24 hours. So
yes. And both cars finished.
Yeah. Both cars.
They was trying to beat the living crap out of the Cavalier, but it finished. They was trying to get us down, and they tried to knock the ugly off me one time. I got T-boned about 55 miles per hour and had to go to the EMS for about 20 minutes. But the guy's like, well, I think you got a mild concussion, maybe whiplash. But he goes, do you want to get transported or do you want to race? I'm like, well, that's a dumb question.
All right, let's go backwards just a little bit, all right? This whole crazy thing started, obviously, a month or so ago.
Yep.
When we started talking about it, okay? You came up with two cars.
Yes.
You had a Cavalier and you had a Vibe.
Yes.
Where'd the cars come from, first of all?
Well, the Vibe was one of our old delivery vehicles. We owned it from day one.
Okay.
And it had 440,000 miles on it when we took it there for the weekend, and everybody laughed at us. And I told everybody that was a sleeper, and everybody's ha ha ha. Then the Cavalier I bought off one of our customers in Defiance, Colin. He actually used to work with us. Colin did, and he works at Machinery Service now, and he's like, well, I got this car, so I bought that. So
okay, all right.
We did find out yellow wasn't our color, though.
Yeah, people don't like yellow cars.
They don't like yellow cars?
No.
And Dane, how did they talk you into being part of this thing as a driver, I guess? I thought you were a little smarter than that. How's that?
Dwayne and I talked about this for a few months, and, before he put something together, and I said, yeah, this would be interesting to do for 24. And it was an experience. I seemed on my round, I had every darn small 6-inch space person driving when I was out there. I missed 2 major wrecks on the front stretch. When I mean majors, there's cars scattered all over, and I had no brakes. And the first one I got lucky. The second one I wasn't so lucky. I missed the last car that was piled up into it by just a couple of inches. But Smokey and the Bandit out there in the 77 Trans Am decided to give me the Dwayne treatment, and I got slammed in the back, and I eventually got a little payback with him. I put him finally up in the wall later on.
No, that's just racing. There's no intentional bumping.
Yeah, there's no intentional.
Well, it was funny because you could race in packs, and you knew the pack that you was in, you could tell after you was out there for a good 20 minutes, you could tell who was going to give and take, and then you could tell who was just going to be total idiots.
Yeah.
And there's about 7 or 8 of them, and so after a while, you'd give. Then after a while, after you get beat up 15, 20 times, used up by the same guy, then you didn't give as much. Yeah. Sure. And Smokey and the Bandit might have took a ride a couple times.
Well, like the 110 out there, he was going to come up to my outside going down into the middle of turn 1 and 2, and I let it diamond up a little bit too far, and all I heard was solid brake squeal, and he went up over the top of turn 1 and 2. I made sure that the car got about a half lane wider just to help him out.
But yeah, and that's the thing. You go into the corners, and like I said, the Cavalier it only had the left front brake for 7 hours. Then finally the piston blew right out of the caliper, and then it had no brakes. Then we had to run to another parts store that opened at 8 in the morning and get some parts because we didn't take those parts with us. But yeah, it was great. And as you said, Dane was one of our drivers. We had 2 teams for people, 2 teams, and we had a lot of help, and if it wasn't for our crew, I'm not kidding you. Dale and Weston. Weston is our team drivers. One team we had Dane Miller here, myself, John Comment, former sprint car driver from Butler, Indiana area, and Riley Van Heis, current sprint car driver from Covington, Ohio. Then the other team, we had Eric Hurricane Krebs, myself, Riley Van Heis, and Cindy Hand, which is Riley's mom.
Okay.
And then Riley's brother, Cindy's other son, Weston, he was one of our pit crew guys, and Dale works over in Napoleon. Tell you what, those boys we kept busy.
Yeah.
And then Andy from West Unity, Andy Davis, that helps Chad Portman. He come on and helped us a little bit Saturday night. Then we had Eric's wife Edie and his daughter Bree. They helped out a lot too. They was our
us
parts.
fed.
Yeah, they kept us fed. They'd go get McDonald's for us, and they went to.
They were parts runners too.
Yep, parts runners. They went to the grocery store, got some donuts and that in the morning. Went to McDonald's, got us coffees and milks and hot chocolates, and then we had some in the parts store twice because you can take a whole trailer full of parts, and you always have that one that you don't take.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So
it's impossible to tell, and especially with an endurance race like this
Yeah.
for 24 hours.
So I mean, it was a whole team effort, and everybody worked their butts off.
Well,
I
see,
mean,
the
they really
thing
did.
too is Dwayne, when he got hit, it literally knocked our rear support for the suspension clean out of the unibody, and we had to about an hour trying to get that welded back up.
Weston and Dale fabricated some pieces of angle iron and welded it back to the frame and welded the axle back into the car. Then it twisted a little bit again. It got in like 4 or 5 crashes, and they had to do that again.
Well, I was just trying to do major front end alignments.
But yeah, so that was our team, and I tell you, we had huge support from this area. Like you said, Jim, you had watching. We had hundreds of people watching, texting, messaging nonstop, and we have some local sponsors that really stepped up, especially at the last minute, and helped us out because this is a cheap deal. It's supposed to be a cheap deal, but we had $1,000 in entry fees.
Okay.
Then we had cars. We had some expense there, then parts. It was pretty easy to get, and we did it the cheap way. There's people out there like Smokey and the Bandit. That guy's telling us they had 15 grand in that car.
Oh my gosh.
Another person had 8 grand in their car. Another person had 7 or 8 grand. We had 2 cars and we had about $3,000 in it.
Okay.
But we had some people step up and help us, which was Precision Converters of Ohio, Jeff Lehman and his crew over here in Bryan. They do a great job. They stepped up, helped us out. Mitchell Auto Service here in Bryan, Ohio. Old Chip Wood, he said he wanted to get on board. Brian Ford Lincoln, Chip was proud to help us out. He helped us out. Of course, VP Race Fuels with Dane here. VP helped us out. Extreme Machining, Brad Johnson. And his group, which I still have his trailer hooked to the truck, and it's still not unloaded because somebody, after being at the track for 32 hours, we was a little tired when we got home yesterday.
Just
Yesterday
slightly.
was a day with no racing involved, I think.
Well, no, we raced till 1:43 yesterday. Then they held us there till 4 to tell us that it was going to be Wednesday till we figured out where we finished.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
then we had Best One Tire, Bryan, Ohio. They got us some tires really cheap, and we burnt every one of those son of guns off the car. we almost didn't finish with the one because they was good tires because they lasted to the very last minute. Napa Auto Parts of Bryan, Ohio, of course. And Squirrel Racing, the proud car owner of Chad Portman and Brad Eitenauer. Old Lincoln Kelvin, he's out in his truck, I know, listening. And we got old Squirrel Racing on board, too. So if it wasn't for them, I mean, they helped us out a lot. And we went through, I think we figured out, we went through 120, we went through like $200 or $320 worth of fuel.
Okay.
Between the 2 cars.
And how many dollars were the parts?
Well, we still got to build those this morning. Well, we did wheel bearing, half shaft, brake pads, 2 calipers.
Yeah.
And I know the one time is $150, one time is $200. So
Okay, so
that's just
somewhere in the neighborhood of another $1,000.
yeah, close. So we probably had 2,500, 3,000 in 2 cars, and a lot of fun. And we had some good sponsors that helped it out. And by the time, hopefully, we get some money back, I'm pretty sure both our cars finished the money. Well, the Vibe at one time was running halfway. We was in the top 20.
Okay.
We was in the top 20, and it didn't slip. We didn't. That was after its crash, after the front end got wiped off of it. The only thing we changed was tires and fuel. So I'm thinking that could have even gotten the top 15 because yesterday, there for a while in the morning when the sun was coming up, it was only about 30 cars on the track. And everybody's like, well, what's the speeds? Well, they started out on the half-mile track, and Dane will attest to this. They're like, oh, it'll just be 30, 35 miles per hour. It started off 55, 65 miles per hour to start. Well, then it got faster and faster, so they're like, okay, we're going to 3/8 mile track. Well, yesterday morning on the 3/8 mile track, when there's only about 30 cars, and I was one of those guys that was being the fast guy. I didn't bump anybody, but I was going 75 down the straightaways and 65s in the corners on the Vibe because I knew there's some teams that was in front of us that was going slow, and the one I counted, I made up at least 12 laps on them.
Okay.
And at one time,
some issues and you weren't.
Yeah, that's right.
It almost sounded like that was the way that race was.
Oh yeah.
You know, if you had a strong car, you needed to make some hay because there were times when everybody, I'm sure, was.
Oh yeah. There's some BMW, and we always, one day when I first talked about this, we thought about old cop cars. Then after we seen this team from Texas brought 6 cars or 7 cars, most of them was old cop cars. You don't want old cop cars unless you want about 20 tires because all the body roll on the right front. They just popping tires right and left. So, but when the one hit the wall head on at 60 miles per hour at 3 o'clock in the morning, it did probably save his life. So, yeah, and that happened right in front of me, and I made a abrasive action off the top of turn 4, so I didn't T-bone him and went through the grass. Which I got 2 trips through the grass. Yesterday, when I was in the Cavalier. Before, right after we got brakes, which maybe I didn't think it had brakes anymore by that time. I don't know. I was trying to gut it out. We'd go numb in the cars, staying in there for so long, and I was trying, and I don't know. Somehow I missed turn 1 and 2 and went for a nice little ride through the grass. And
I think the Cavalier had exited at least 3 times.
Yeah,
because I know I went over once. I had to avoid another car, and I got basically a little bit of a touch, and then it was like I got to go. Instead of turning left, I went straight and went off and saved it. But it's it was survival because some of these guys. Well, we had a neighbor of ours technically in the pits.
Yep,
they had like an
good people,
older Malibu, and the guy's I don't know, girlfriend, mom.
It was his mom.
Yeah.
Yep, it was his mom.
She went down into turn 3 and she got hit by another car, and she ended up rolling it over. But she was in the back of the ambulance. She gets out, and she's all smiles.
Yep,
all smiles. 60 years old.
Yep, 60
knee
years
replacement.
Old. She wanted to do it. Yeah. And she's from down by your old stomping grounds. She's from Eaton, Ohio. Her son races modifieds at Eldora because they actually pulled in Friday night when we did, and he seen we was from Ohio, they was from Ohio, and he's like, I think I'll park right beside you guys, and instantly, and that's neat because I'm like, well, don't you race modifieds at Eldora? He goes, how do you know? I said, I can tell by your trailer. And so instantly we became friends and like, hey, you need anything, we'll help you. You need anything, we'll help you. And that's just the bond. Here's people going out, competing against each other. And it was that way. Nicoloy's up here at Nicoloy's Fix and Fab and Pioneer. They finished the race. They had some issues, but they as soon as they seen we was out trying to weld the axle, and they was down there. What do you guys need? What do you guys need? Sean from Machinery Service over in Defiance, his team, which I think they borrowed more from us than what we borrowed from them. But that's the way it goes, Sure. I mean, and we had quite a few people. Eric Krebs there, he took his welder, and there's 2-3 teams stopped by. I want to know if they could use the welder, and so yeah. Oh, it was a lot of fun. It was. To be God's
honest, I think Eric was probably the smartest one of our whole group. He went out there for that one stint, and he come back in, and he goes, "I ain't doing this."
Yeah.
He always has been one of the sharper.
Yeah, I think he actually. Something. Yeah, his brain cells were well intact.
Yeah. Somebody didn't try beating him out of them.
All right. I got to pay some bills, but we are rehashing the grocery getter race over the weekend that Dane and Dwayne were part of, and we're going to really get into the specifics here in just a minute. You're on the throttle on the Q, 96.5 FM.
Northwest Ohio's largest trailer dealer with over 300 trailers.
Dane Miller with me and Dwayne Hancock as we discuss just a little bit about the grocery getter race over the weekend, and then in our final segment today we'll go back and pick up some very sad news and also some results from other racetracks and look ahead towards this week's racing. Guys, let's go back to the very beginning. How many cars started the grocery getter on Saturday afternoon, and what time? Because I think there was a delay, was there not?
There was. They had some transponder issues, and it was supposed to start at 12, and by the time we went through the transponder loop, 7, 8, 9, 12, 15 times?
Too many times.
It started at 1:43.
We can blame Tyler Perry.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, he's an easy target.
Yeah, he was up in the tower the whole time, so we can blame him. But, I got started late, and I think I heard 115 and I heard 107, so I don't know. Because not everybody took the green flag at the same time. Some people stayed in the pits and waited an hour or two and come out.
Really?
Then we seen one guy come about 6, 7 o'clock at night and came out and raced.
Yeah.
Got there, and I guess some might have been strategy, hoping that some of the stuff would break, then they'd get. But I mean, we went there to win. The only way you're going to win is try to do all 24 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, we were probably down in the Cavalier 3.5 hours total.
Yeah, probably by the time we fixed it 12
Something like
times.
And you were saying you did probably somewhere over 3,000 laps, 3,500 laps, something like that?
Probably in the vibe, because I know like at 9:30, which would have been 8 hours into the race, we was already over 1,000 laps.
Yeah.
And we started out on the half-mile track, then it took us down to the 3/8 mile track about 3 hours into it.
Something like
And that's
that.
when I got crashed right after that, and it was tricky because they use the same front stretch and back stretch in 3 and 4, and you're out there. Well, and if you're following a group of cars, and some of them get ready to miss the corner because now you got a shortcut, do the infield. There it goes, and I kind of thought maybe that's why I got hit, because it was funny because you kind of try to be defensive, and when you put yourself in a certain situation, okay, I could get hit or this could be hurt. Well, that time I was like, oh, I'm in the wide open. Boom, nope, I wasn't in the wide open.
Well, see, too, I made a point to Tyler because Tyler was race directing, and there was one point where I think it was a Chrysler, had a wheel, and I could see it in turn 4. It was just wobbling back and forth. You knew he broke the front hub and stuff, and then all of a sudden it decides to go away. He goes up and he hits the wall, and he's stuck there, and that tire comes out. I punt it. Well, ironically, I found out later after we were done, when I punted it off the left front, I guess before the flag stand, I guess it went clear over to turn 2 and got in front of Cindy in the Vibe.
Yeah, about took both of our cars out in one crash, 2 turns apart. Well, and the crazy thing is, so there's no cautions. It's green flag, and they did set if there's a fire or a rollover, there's a red. So they had a couple of reds because there's a couple fires and rollover. But they would put the caution lights on. But if somebody is broke down on the track, they had wreckers or a push truck that come push you off or hook you up. Well, these people are standing in the middle of the track. I don't know.
And we're doing 60 mile an hour going by these guys. That's what I was giving Tyler a rough time yesterday, because when that tire come off that car, I come by, I slowed down, and there's no flagman up in the stand. And it's like, here we are, we're green, and these guys are standing out on the track. And then finally somebody come up to the stand and turned on the yellows, and we slowed down. But it was like, I seen it as a danger, because now here's these guys standing out there along trying to hook this car up.
Sure. Well, the rule was if you hit the safety truck, you was automatically disqualified. But
John might have touched that one.
John comment, our one driver, he almost lost us the race about, I don't know, it was dark out. Guys, you're racing in the pack, and the trucks would just come right out in the middle of the track. Well, the one come flying out on the front stretch, and he come off turn 4, and the car in front of him dove down, and right there's a safety truck. So John all but bought the safety truck at one time.
Started with somewhere around 100 cars on the track.
Yeah, right around 100. I think there was officially 107 took the green flag, and 115 ended up racing before it was all over.
Okay. And when everything was over and done, how many cars finished?
I think with 10 minutes to go, there's 47 on the track, and I think 3 dropped out. So I think there was 44 that took the checkered flag, which, like I said, some of them had been out, everybody. At one time there, with about 3 hours ago, there's only like 32 cars on the track at one time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, what was it like, guys? You start in daylight,
Yep.
okay, and you race for a number of hours, and with sunshine up, okay? And
Yep.
then you hit the night, 7, 8 hours into the race at that point in time, right?
Yep.
Somewhere in that ballpark. Now you go dark, okay? And you've already been racing 7 hours, 8 hours, okay? It's not like this is, you know, a lot longer than any even NASCAR race.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to be part of at this point in time. You've done 2 or 3 NASCAR races by the time you hit the darkness. And then you go from sunlight to dark. How did that affect you guys that day?
Well, one of the things that I noticed was the oil on the windshield. You get behind a car and they're spewing, and then you get the sprites coming off from the lights.
Yeah.
And then, of course, then there's a little bit of dark areas. And, of course, then you couldn't see the darker cars.
Sure.
That was one thing.
Sure.
Of course, I look at it this way. I drive through Atlanta a lot, and I thought Atlanta was crazy, but there's a lot of these guys that need to go down and drive Atlanta because they might clear some traffic out.
My biggest thing, I liked the night because by that time our mirrors were knocked off the car. It was cool when you had the mirrors because then you could see, you know, because like I said, you knew who was going to race you clean and who wasn't.
Right.
And when you lose that ability,
Yeah.
you don't know. So what I liked about the night, when you go in the corner, you could see shadows.
Yeah.
So, and at that time, we was just trying to log laps, so you might give a little bit, not knowing who it was, or knowing where you're on the track. You know when those people are coming that, okay, it's been, 15 minutes. That guy's probably getting ready to come back towards me or what, because some of them was just going, all out from, which some of them it bit because a lot of those guys that went all out from the beginning. Some of them
one
end
of
up
the
in
comments,
the wall or blew up or caught on fire. Or
one of the comments you made was the team from Texas. They had them big
Yes.
creases. Well, they would get impatient, but they couldn't go to the bottom. So you give them 2 lanes.
Yeah.
They would come right up behind you and literally keep bumping you to get out
Oh
of
yeah,
their way.
they was using
and
the
it
big
was like,
tires.
why are you? I got hit. I don't know how many times. Cindy said she was getting bumped. Riley
yeah.
said he was getting bumped. Finally, in fact, they gave them the #1 salute a couple of times. But it was just
It's an
because their
indicator
car,
to go around.
yeah, their cars wouldn't handle down on the bottom because they would wash out. So they was trying to take and bump you out of the way so you get out of their way. And it's like, I'm already giving you room.
Yeah, some of the bigger cars, because mostly the people that was going a slower pace or a steady pace was running the high grooves. Everybody knew that.
Yeah.
So but these guys with some of the big cars, which was kind of one of our concerns when we talked about taking smaller cars. These big cars were trying to lean on you and bully you out of the way,
Sure.
but they couldn't hold the bottom. So after you learned that, you knew either one to gas it by them real quick or go on the inside of them.
Sure.
Well, one of the things
Yeah.
that I found, I had a couple of cars that I knew, okay, they door slammed me pretty good, trying to put me in the wall. And, of course, then when you come by and you come down and lean on them a little bit, it was like they lost their freaking brain because it was like, oh, we don't like that, but yet they just got done quamming you earlier, and it's
Yeah.
like you haven't forgot it, and you go down there and touch them, and then they get all upset, and it's like, what?
Well, yeah, and there was no intentional taking each other out, or you got disqualified. But and like I said, there's gonna be bumps and banging. I didn't think it was that I mean, it was brutal. I mean, people were running into you pretty hard, but I don't think. I mean, there wasn't a ton of intentional stuff. I don't think, but you just knew who to give room and who didn't. And Smokey and Bandit was one of the worst guys. He'd tail slap you, or he wouldn't pass you clean no matter what.
Oh.
And after about 15 times of that, I knew if he was going to be on the high side of me at 1 and 2, that I wasn't going to give one of the guys. I gave every time.
Okay.
But I knew if I didn't give one of the times, that he was going to go for a ride. And the one time, I mean, I didn't intentionally take him out. He took himself out because if you don't give, he's relying on you to give every single time.
Right.
Well, after 15,
Well, he's
20
only
times.
driving off the nose. He wasn't driving ahead of him. He was
15,
driving
20
off the nose.
times, you decide not to give.
Yeah, and then it's his fault at that point.
Well, that's the way I look at it.
We've got couple little small cars from your end.
Yes.
We've got a couple of big police cruisers. We've got a basically a Camaro out there in Smokey and the
Yeah.
Trans Am, yeah.
Trans Am
Yep.
Firebird.
Oh, yeah, there's some BMWs.
Yeah, that's where he's heading. What other kinds of vehicles?
Saabs. There was a team of. I think the one Saab won. I think that's who they give the checkered flag to. Which that car was solid, and they did.
Yeah.
The guy he was in front of us in line sounded like he was only off track 45 minutes total between
wow.
tire changes and fuel stops.
You had to watch for him because he was singing.
Yeah, I mean he was. I guarantee you he was going 65, 70 nonstop the whole time. I mean, that was really good. But you've seen Saabs, some Beamers, a lot of smoke, a lot of Hondas.
We saw a hybrid.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
a Honda Insight. But see, I got
Yeah.
to thinking about that
Honda
last
Insight.
night when I was talking to Dad. What would have happened if we'd have had an electrical fire? Because that's a whole different procedure.
Yeah.
And
Oh, heck yeah.
Jason Deitch's team had a all-wheel drive Ford Focus. That was a pretty stout car.
Was that his car?
Yeah, I would say they probably was in the top 10 because they was getting at it pretty good.
Was Jason running too?
He did, yes. I missed it because he was actually drag racing in Indianapolis.
Okay.
So I think he got done drag racing at 6:30 or 7, drove to Fort Wayne, and ran 4.5 hours, and went back to Indy to finish drag racing yesterday. So, but yeah, that was a good car. Being an all-wheel drive is the only all-wheel drive car out there. So, I mean,
Well, that 330i was an all-wheel drive.
Yeah,
I did
okay.
find that out.
but yeah, there was a lot of. There's a couple older Monte Carlos, a Grand Prix. There's a Grand Prix, but a lot of like Toyotas, Hondas.
Yeah.
You know, Civics,
All right, so
Accords.
What did we as this race team that you guys have learned from this year that you're going to do a little different for next year? Because you've already told me that you're going to do this again next year. Or are those secrets? Are they
No,
classified?
oh no.
Shouldn't be talking
If
about it.
We'll definitely take more
tires.
more calipers and brake
Yep,
pads.
definitely we're going to take brakes,
Okay.
more tires. If we do double duty, we're going to have 5 drivers on that team.
Sure.
If we do double duty, because it's pretty brutal, but if some of us want to do double, we're going to make sure we got.
Enough people to
Yeah,
cover
yep.
it.
So
how
have more
many-
drivers.
How many hours did you guys drive each one of you guys?
Oh.
Estimate. Yes.
I don't know, because I drove both cars, and I have no idea.
Okay,
a
but-
lot.
Okay.
And Dane drove a lot, and John did a lot because
Yeah, we basically, John and I switched. As soon as the Cavalier deal, we kind of kept Riley in the vibe.
vibe, yep.
And he got
Is
it.
the tire because
Well, just because we knew that car was running up front, and Riley was turning a lot of good laps. So did Cindy. Cindy did our consistent laps, and Riley was a little more on the throttle, a little harder, which that's how we had it planned.
sure.
So they was in the vibe a lot because they was doing consistency laps, and
So
I mean,
basically, the Cavalier was John and I with Dwayne, basically
Yep.
throughout the night.
Yeah,
and
for
into the morning.
majority of it.
And I'll tell you, when that sun come up and going down into turn 1, it was.
the sun coming up was
Yeah,
the worst part of the whole thing. The sun coming
Yeah.
up, yep, that was the worst part. But yeah, I mean it. But that's what we learned: more tires, more brakes, more drivers, and be aggressive as hell from the time the green flag starts to it ends.
Yeah.
That's why we're taking more tires. We're gonna be like these teams. We already figured it out. Dale probably said it the best. He wrote a little thing on the back of our car. It said,
Yeah.
"Move over."
A-hole. Love Dale.
Quit hitting us. Love Dale. So we're going to be more of the guys that, we'll be a little more aggressive because we just tried to save our stuff. But,
Well, our theory was tortoise and hare.
yeah.
That was we wanted to survive 24.
And we did. Both cars finished. So, I mean, our goals was to, number 1 goal is to have fun.
Yeah.
Number 2 goal is stay safe, which I tested that rule. But like I said, they tried to knock the ugly off me and they couldn't. So it was okay.
At least you got hit in the spot where you're going
Right.
to the least
Yeah.
damage.
Exactly.
That's be honest here.
Exactly.
Oh, we kept an eye on him. He said he was complaining of a headache, and then he was tired. He was going to rest. And, after you've taken a hit, you really don't want him to lay down, and try to get
Yep.
through 4 or 6 hours. And he was wanting to lay down and stuff, and we had to keep an eye on him. And
I did for a little bit. Then I got dizzy my next shift, but then I was fine after that. But then our third goal, which was everybody's goal, is to finish both cars. This is a huge feat to finish, especially 2 cars in 24 hours. And like I said, the vibe wasn't off hardly at all. I mean, it was off for a few minutes for repairs when the front end got wiped off. And other than that, it was just tires and fuel.
Yeah.
And Cavalier was different. But, I mean, it was awesome.
Fantastic. Well, we're glad that you survived, that both of you guys survived, and we're looking forward to Wednesday or Thursday or whenever they can finally decide where you guys place, because it sounds like both of your cars placed in the money too, which is always a good thing as well. We're on the throttle. I've got Dwayne and Dane with me right now. When we come back, we'll rehash other racing from last week and look forward to what's coming up here this week on the throttle on the queue.
Are you currently struggling with that old garage door? At Suburban Auto, customer satisfaction is our #1 priority.
And back here on the throttle, rehashing the grocery getter race over the weekend, but there was other racing that went on, and I think the thing that caught me first, Dwayne, and why don't we talk about that, because we lost another race car driver last week as well, and I've been waiting to talk to you a little bit about that.
Yeah, unfortunately, Thursday night, Greg Hodnett from Pennsylvania, which a guy I've known for a long time, not as close as I know Jason Johnson, which was kind of ironic because I got my Forever 41 Jason Johnson hat on that I received Friday before we went racing, and Bobby, Jason's Whittle, sent me a nice little letter. And so it was kind of, of course that was already in the mail before Greg passed away Thursday night. But yeah, Greg Hodnett, 49 years old, very accomplished racer, used to race on the World Outlaw circuit. And that's how I knew him, because I actually had a chance to go work for his team. And actually the team marketing guy kind of talked me out of it, because he said at that time he knew it was only going to be a 1 or 2 year deal. And he says, I know you got a good thing going, so don't waste it, doing that. But anyways, accident at BAP Speedway Thursday night. There's an opening in the track in the fence or guardrail, which a lot of tracks have, and that's been a very concern to a lot of these drivers, because they're making the drivers change the cars a lot of safety, because there've been some cage issues this year. Well, this opening in the wall, you just lost steering and hit it head on, and the impact. Unfortunately, he passed away from the impact, which. There's a big thing now about track safety, too.
Well, Dwayne, some of these tracks, I go to a lot of tracks, and that's what I deal with, is the racetrack itself.
Yeah.
And, even Brad McCown down there at Atomic posted out on Facebook earlier in August about what can they do in Turn 3.
Yeah, they're Turn 3.
And it's why post out on Facebook? Just do it. We got a lot of safety issues. Concrete walls are another one. Definitely openings. I see a lot of them down south and some of the other tracks I've been to. And our tracks are 50 years behind, and we need to start looking into that issue. It's one thing to sit there and strengthen the cars, get the different wall tubing or whatever, but in the end, I think the insurance companies are going to start looking at this and say, hey, these tracks got to do something.
Well, in some places, like in Australia, there's a governing board that does the tracks, and they check them all out. And New Jersey's ran by the state patrol.
Yeah.
Checks that out. So who knows? I mean, some of these tracks are way behind, some of them's not, and unfortunately, there's been a lot of accidents this way. I mean, and here's two very popular, very good, very great gentlemen, with Jason Johnson and Greg Hodnett. There's great family men, great people to everybody on the track. I mean, just, outstanding, not only as drivers, but as just human beings, and unfortunately, those are two of them that we lost this year. And, so yeah, the sport's never going to be safe no matter what you do, or 100% safe. There's some things that the tracks can do, and there's some things that drivers and the manufacturers can do, because the cage construction of the sprint cars haven't changed for 40 years, but the speeds is went up by 50, 60 miles per hour.
Well, you bring that up, Dwayne. One of the things too is I think some of our tracks are too big yet. We did see a spur of half-mile 5/8 tracks grow up in the 70s and 80s. And even our local track, Bryan Motor Speedway, at one time tried a 3/4 mile track. And what I've been told by my dad, some of the drivers said there was no way that they'd have raced on that thing. So they never did have one race on there, from what I understand. But that's what I'm seeing out here. We need to get down to 1/4 miles, 5th miles, small 3/8, 3rd miles, and stuff like that. Our cars are getting faster. The engines are putting out more horsepower, and I think it's time for some change.
But I don't think they'll ever get away from big tracks. And perfect examples this weekend. We was in the grocery getter, no roll cages, no anything, just a passenger car with a seatbelt and a helmet. Like somebody told me yesterday, you was going 75 miles per hour, and they're like, what would happen if you got sideways and somebody T-boned you? More than likely, it wouldn't have been good, but did it stop us from doing it? No.
Yeah.
Will it stop these guys from doing it? No. Yeah. Will I do it again next year? Yeah.
Sure.
Will these guys do it again? Yeah. But Hodnett was a big, strong, big player in PA, and tell you how big he was. Lincoln and Williams Grove actually canceled their regular races this weekend in honor of Greg and his family, because he's a multi-time champion and winner at those places. So, which, that takes a lot to do in the racing industry for to cancel a show.
Wasn't he originally out of Memphis?
Yes. He
Yeah.
was originally from Tennessee. Yep. And became Pennsylvania native. But yeah, we had some other races going on too. Like we talked last week, Eldora had the big Four Crown Nationals going on. Brett Marks from Pennsylvania won Friday night, for the World Outlaws, which Marks is his second year on the World Outlaw team. He's one of the smaller teams. He only had one mechanic earlier in the year. I think he's got two now, but he's a PA regular that raced with Hodden a lot, and he dedicated the win to Greg because, hits those guys pretty hard. Then Saturday was the annual Four Crown Nationals. Aaron Reitzel won the All-Star Sprints. Sunshine, Tyler Courtney doubled up. He won the USAC Midgets and Sprint Car race A-Mains, and CJ Leary won the Silver Crown. And a guy we had on our show here just a while back, Cody Swanson, wrapped up the Silver Crown points title for making history, the first four-time champion of USAC Silver Crown Series. Oakshade ran Saturday night. Devin Shields won the late models. Brandon Gregory, the sportsman. Corey Gum, the bombers. And Rich Reif won the bombers. And up to I-96, Max Stamball won. And coming up this weekend, busy week. The weather's looking good so far, and we're making up a lot of rainout shows. Thursday night for the third attempt, the finale of the Kokomo SmackDown is supposed to happen Thursday night with the Boss Sprints running a show with them Thursday night. Then Friday, Gas City I-69 Speedway is the rescheduled USAC Sprint Car show. They got rained out a couple of weeks ago, which that'll be a good show. Saturday, Montpelier, Indiana Speedway is the rescheduled Boss Swing Sprint Car show. Plus, we have a big USAC show at Lawrenceburg for $10,000 to win Saturday night. And Berlin has dirt on the track, and they're going to have late models and the sod sprint cars. And Saturday night at Oakshade is topless night there, Jim.
Look out. Topless night?
Yeah, the topless late models.
Yeah.
Topless night always sounds a lot better. That's one of my favorite nights.
What is a topless late model?
They just take the roof off of them.
Okay.
They take the. Well, it's kind of cool because a lot of people don't see what a late model chassis looks like. They have sheet metal, so they take the roofs off of them and
And
sit there.
the thing is funny,
cage.
I see this a lot down south, and we talk about sprint car safety, right?
Yeah.
They take them roofs off, and then they got a huge opening compared to the sprint cars.
Sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So is there a roll bar on top that's?
Oh yeah, there's
There's
a regular.
a cage or something.
Oh yeah, there's a 4-point, four bars and some. Yeah, I mean,
right,
it's
now
a,
you got
It's a
big
big,
square.
it's even bigger opening than a sprint car.
Oh, yeah.
We had one down south, and we did have a car get over, and one of the things that was brought up was we got fortunate because the way the noses are on those things are very stout,
Yeah.
and if it would ever get in, there'd be huge halo intrusion. And they've got a bar that does go from the left rear of the cage to the right front of the cage, but that ain't enough to keep anything out of it.
But yeah, so yeah, they do this a lot of different places. But that's how they usually end the season at Oakshade. So it'll be their final night. But yeah, still quite a few races around here, and like I said, some big ones, some huge ones. SmackDown's a huge race. USAC's got a lot of big races this weekend. With the SmackDown, I think it pays $10,000 or $15,000 Thursday night. Then Gas City's $5,000 to win. Then $10,000 at Lawrenceburg. They got a huge 3-day weekend, and Lawrenceburg's the only regular schedule, and everything else is makeup races from rainouts. And up to Kalamazoo this weekend, they have the Super Shoe. For pavement fans, late models and stock cars and that up to Kalamazoo, and I believe that's practice on Friday, heats and stuff on Saturday, and feature races on Sunday afternoon.
And a note down on my turf, we had what we call the Alabama State Race down at East Alabama Motor Speedway, and Riley Hickman, who is a multi-time Southern All-Stars champion, ended up winning the 4,000 to win 46th annual Alabama State Race, which has been won by like Bloomquist and even Mike DeBall and quite a few others, from what I understand.
So we still have racing left. We still have.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, Matt Keck just texted me a few minutes ago, one of our sponsors with Keck Lawn Service, and he says, he referring to me and Matt and me are going to get a car next year and race in the grocery getter and I've already declined.
Oh, come on, Jim.
No, he's more than happy if he wants to get in here. That's a good thing.
He's got the perfect car right out here.
I know it.
Black Dodge out here.
I know, and the Dodge never showed up that they said was coming either.
Yeah.
So,
well,
but
I like to keep my Dodge in one piece, and I saw all the.
well, I'm telling you. The only thing that was straight on either one of our cars was the roof.
Yeah.
There is not. I mean, it's funny. You walk around them, and I mean, there's concrete on the right side of the Vibe from when it got scraped into a wall that's still embedded in the door. And I mean, you see black paint, yellow paint, blue paint. Yeah, I mean, there's
the right side of the car would have been good, but I had to get the Bandit.
Yeah, but there's all. I mean, it's amazing some of the
I did
bumps
take
you
the front
see.
bumper
and,
cover off, and then Bandit took the rear bumper cover, and then I don't know who I touched. To take the front one off,
and some pieces of metal stuck here and there that don't belong on the car. So, yeah, I mean,
yeah, and that's why the black Dodge will not be racing next year.
That'll be okay.
I think John will do good in that black.
It'll
Dodge.
buff out. Hey, it'll just be more work for Jason Deach. That's all.
Jason
I mean,
will be 100%
yeah.
See,
I bet you Jason will call you and tell you should do it.
I
mean,
doubt that at all.
he might even race on your team.
He might.
I mean,
and maybe give me a discount on all the.
That's right.
and
I
everything,
mean,
so you know.
see, it's a win-win.
Yeah.
But that was what we were talking about. The Vibe. The Vibe was still plated, and it
Yeah.
still had insurance on it.
Yeah.
There you go. Can you turn all that into your
I don't
insurance
know. Heck,
agent,
I
if
have
we
it on a
unloaded
469, I don't
we,
know what
we was
happened.
going to talk about unloading. I was going to drive it out here, just for the show. But
that's fantastic. Are there places where folks, everything's still up on your Facebook page, I'm sure?
oh yeah,
people can get
yep. I'll have to share those on the throttle page. It was so chaotic at with being there at the track for 32 hours and trying to keep two cars going and driving two and trying to stay awake and trying to eat and then trying to get rid of a massive headache from banging my head against the doorpost at 50 miles per hour or whatever it was.
Yep.
I did them on mine because we had all kind of people asking for us, and Dane did a lot of them too. So we'll share them. I know Cindy, she used to be the official boss photographer too, and she brought her camera. So when she wasn't racing, she took a ton of photos, which we'll have those up too. So it's hard to say.
We know some people was running funny fuel because I kept hearing people saying, "Man, I'm smelling something bitter." And then finally, when I got in my last stint, I go, I smell it. It's MBTE. And like in the state of Iowa, MBTE is an oxygenator, and it's illegal in Iowa.
Okay.
So it was like, that was really playing with you too, and that's part of that emissions thing. I've been having.
And the fuel they sell at the racetrack was 110 octane. So by the time the Cavalier was done, and the Vibe, I mean, most of the exhaust was tore off. And the Cavalier actually had backfiring yesterday morning. You'd throw out, go full throttle down there and go 70 miles per hour, and you let off, and it started, popping, backfiring because, it was
But
good.
we never overheated neither one of them.
No, the Vibe started overheating with 10 minutes to go, but the bottom radiator hose fell off too, so nobody really knew that.
Yeah, but the VP cool down did its job.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Well, we can attest to that. Dane Miller's VP cool down stuff did save it. We put that, supposed to keep the cars like 40, 50, 60 degrees cooler, and we had it in both cars. And the Vibe, Riley said that when it overheats, it dings, and the gauge was pegged at 260. It was that way the last 10 minutes and never blew up, and the bottom radiator hose slipped off, and was still finished.
Testament to the product, Dane.
Yeah,
no doubt about that. Well, guys, thanks for being here. I hope you both finish well into the money, so there's a lot of money in your pocket to get this team ready for next year. And I'm glad both of you are doing well. Dwayne, I'm sure that you got another day or two to get over that head bump, but that'll be okay. And what you did miss was the fact that your Steelers are really playing rotten football right now. So
but they play tonight, so I didn't miss
the problem
anything.
with our car. It was black and yellow, or yellow and black.
You wasn't supposed to bring that up, Dane. You're fired.
That'll wrap it up for us today on the Throttle, man. We appreciate everybody for listening to us today. Sounds like a great weekend, a good time. Hopefully there's a lot of money in your pocket next week when you come talk to me, Dwayne.
Yeah, we could win a lot still and not probably be even, but it's fun. The goal really wasn't the money, is to have fun. And like I said, our crew, Edie and Bree and Dale and Weston, that wasn't driving, I mean, they literally worked their butts off just as hard as we did, in all honesty. If it wasn't for them, we would that yellow car would have been on the trailer.
An hour and 40 minutes in.
Oh, yeah, it would have been. Yeah, it would have never got 50 laps. Hardly. I mean, so yeah, it was a great team effort, and everybody had a great time, and everybody, well, oh no, I haven't talked to, Dale last night said he wants to drive next year, and Weston and Riley and Cindy's already talking about,
Think we can get Shelby?
No, Shelby,
It's too smart
I'm in
for
trouble
stuff
with
like that.
Shelby.
Shelby's
I'm in
too
trouble.
smart for that.
I'm in trouble with her because
Well, I know your mom kept texting me.
didn't
She
like
was
it.
thankful that I helped you out and everything, and I
Yeah.
told her it was been fun. And
Shelby said she'll go next year, but she said that she will not like it if there's people hitting us. So
That'll wrap up on the throttle here today. All brought to you by your local Napa store here in Bryan by Suburban Auto. AJ Door, Brian Ford Lincoln, Jason Dietz Customs Collisions, Trailer and Trailer Repair, Fast Forward Motorsports, and Keck Lawn Service. And we'll be back again next Monday, same time, same station, right here for On the Throttle.